So welcome. So today it's our final Global Cafe of the year. We've had, I believe, Sonia, 6 or 7 meetups this year, and we're looking forward to putting together a great program for you next year as well, with another 6 to 7 Global Cafes spread out throughout the year. Normally, if you've been with us before, our agenda, our schedule is usually as we wait and greet you and meet you from all over our very broad global network. Normally Birgit is here, and unfortunately Birgit can't join us today because she's in Korea, and I think it's probably 2 a.m. or something crazy that the time is just not fitting for her to join us from Korea today. Birgit would normally give you an update on what's happening with the network. I'm going to do that for her. And then I'm going to introduce our guest today, Dr. Tina Weisser. And I'll tell you a little bit about Tina in a moment. And Tina will tell you a lot more about herself in a moment. We'll give Tina about 20, 25 minutes to share some of the amazing work that she's been doing and some of the research that she's been carrying out in the area of service design leadership and organizational change. And then throughout, we'll then open it up to us to have a chat with Tina about this topic. If it's important to you and you have thoughts and questions about it, be sure to capture them during Tina's presentation and pop them into the chat. But first, welcome. I'd like to give you just maybe 3 or 4. First of all, thank you all for being members and for being here today, members and friends of Tina. Members of the network, friends of Tina. There's 3 or 4 things I wanted to just make you aware of. You may already be aware of them through the newsletter that you've recently received, but one good news is that next week it will be the latest issue of Touchpoint. It should be out probably by the end of the week, and the upcoming issue, is all about in-house service design, which is relevant pretty much to the topic that Tina is sharing today as well. A lot of organizations are now building out their in-house service design teams. So we're going to hear from service designers all over the world, sharing their experience and their insights into practicing service design within. And so the issue is called Designing from Within. So look forward to that one. The Young Talent Board have been very active in planning the next Gen conference, which is usually in April. And once again, this year it's on April 11th. The theme is still being sort of finalized, but there'll be a lot more information about that coming out in early December. So keep an eye out for that. Jesse, who maybe will join us today, and Tina and many others have been very active with the Academy. There's a couple of new programs starting right at the beginning of the new year in January. One will be the new practitioner curriculum. That's going to be running from January to April. And then Tina will be one of the teachers in the new masterclass series that opened this year. It sold out really, really quickly. It proved to be very popular. Some amazing teachers on the program. And that will launch again at the end of January and go until the beginning of April. A couple of more things. We are, if you've been aware of it, we have the Service Design Network Awards every year. We presented the winners and the finalists in Helsinki there about a month ago. We are now actively with our new member-based case study editorial team. We're putting all of these case studies up on the website. So bit by bit by bit, one was launched last week. There'll be another, probably one a week for the next, 10 to 12 weeks, maybe a bit more. So keep an eye on the case study library. There's going to be a lot of great stories being published there over the next 2 or 3 months. And then finally, if there's any new members here today and you're curious about how to best take advantage of your membership, Birgit and I are going to, and Sonia are going to be hosting our third, what we call member meetup. That will be next week, next Wednesday. And the goal of that is really just to help you make the most of your membership. We know that you invest in the network. So it's how best to stay involved, to stay engaged, to contribute, and to help benefit your own professional practice of service design. So that will be December 5th. Thank you, Sonia. Yeah, December 5th. So hopefully, if there's any new members here, please, we'd love to see you again next week. So this is great. Folks, continue letting us know where you're coming in from. Let's just get started. First of all, any questions at all about any of the events that I just mentioned, or any of the upcoming? If not, I can get going. Or if you have questions, pop them in the chat. That's fine too. I can take care of it through the chat. So yeah, so today, Tina, welcome. Nice to see you. I saw you in Helsinki. Today, Tina has been sort of on the forefront of, I would say, two leading topics in the area of service design, and has done a lot of work and a lot of research and a lot of publishing through Touchpoint and other media on the topic of service design leadership and organizational change. I would also say service design implementation is another area that Tina has spent a lot of time exploring, how we get from original ideas to actually complete and launched services. But today, she's going to focus in on guiding teams through change in what she calls a shifting service design landscape, as I'm sure many of you are aware of. But without further ado, I'll let Tina talk about herself, give you an introduction as to who she is, why she's here, and what she's going to share with you today. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. So I'll share my screen so that you can see something. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for the invitation. Nice to see. So I see some familiar faces. That's great. Very nice to see you all again. Yes, so I'm based in Munich. So maybe that's to also, because I didn't feel like I didn't use the chat. So I'm in Munich. I'm living here since quite some time with my family. I have a daughter. And since 2 years, I kind of have two hats on. So I'm a leadership and service design and change consultant. But on the other side, I'm also a professor for service design, UX and leadership. And I have the honor to be part of a very exciting new center. That's MUCDAI, that's called Munich Center for Digital Science and AI. And there I'm leading a new program. At the moment, we have a bachelor program. It's called Computer Science and Design. And we're also building a master. So that's really exciting because I'm kind of in a very nice intersection between technology, design, and also, I would say, the people side of things. So I'm also doing some research, and that's also something I will share today. I want to give you some insights in what I've been doing that's a research from the last half year. Before that, I was quite into service design implementation. So there's also, that's how I did my PhD. That's actually where I also met Birgit Mager. I've been part of the service design network since, I think now it's already 12 years. So that's also nice to be part of such a, I would say it's a very, it's a really nice network because there's so much going on, every year, new things, nice conferences to see each other again. And also the academy, I would say that's my little baby within the community here to shape the academy, to make sure we have exciting courses. The master program was really, really nice, the master class. So I think that was really nice. That came mostly from Jesse. Okay, so that's about myself. So I've been talking about a research that I'm currently doing. That's why the results are a preview, so it's not fully finished. So I've been running this since I would say late spring. We had now it's a bit less than 100 participants, and it was addressed to service design leaders. And I would like to share a couple of insights and then kind of move to the topic of change. If you have questions, I know we have lots of time for discussion afterwards, but if there's something really urgent, you're also welcome to just jump in. So what was the idea of making this research? I wanted to figure out what's the current state of leadership in service design. We have the full body of AI being very present, keeping us very busy, but then we also have, lots of other, I would say, challenges in leadership. So maybe one thing that is just a confirmation. I think, I mean, it was a survey. So I think in a survey, you always want to have a confirmation of, selection of questions you give in. And this was about like, the first slide is about like, how is it in terms of AI adoption? I think this is no surprise. Lots of us have been busy with, trying to apply AI, Gen AI with user research, but I found it just to give it some numbers. So most people use it in user research, or like at least like what leaders kind of answered. In ideation and synthesis. So I think that's like where most, leaders are really busy to get this going, really, collect experience and, make it effective. But then also we have, a bit less, I mean, prototyping is not so big yet. Implementation is quite small, and like monitoring and evaluation is even smaller. So I think there's lots of potential, to do more of AI application. But this was just as a, so I'm just now throwing a couple of insights at you, maybe just to get also the discussion going afterwards. Another topic that I was asking is about, because I figured out that, if you ask people about like, what's your job description? Like, how do you call your role? Usually there's a variety of answers. So this was even, I would say, another level. Like I was asking, like, who do you report to? And back came 28 different roles. Like people report to 28 different kind of job roles, which I found interesting. That's such a variety from the CEO to directors to certain experience leads, transformation lead, just managers, partners. So that's also, I think, very typical for service design that maybe you have experienced that or know it. Like if you look for, maybe a new job, it's very hard to figure out what is actually a service design role. So it's usually not only the service designer, service design lead. It can be anything, from experience design and so on. I think there's a variety out there. And this also kind of reflected back to who people report to, because I was interested, like, how is service design set up within organizations? And that's actually a poll that we have for you, because I would like to be now like very interested, like, where are you? So maybe Sonia, you could open the poll. We wanted to know, in terms of service design setup, like how do you, like, where you work in your organization and the company, are you like a centralized team? Are you part of a centralized team? Are you within a product team? Are you spread across different departments? Or are you maybe from an external consultancy? Just to also, get an idea how it is where you work. Okay, we have almost half have answered. So let's see. I mean, what also was one question is like, because a lot of times leadership, I mean, there is leadership with authority and without authority. And I think that was maybe also like one answer that came out, or one out of the data is like 2/3 have a leadership role with authority, and only one third have have a leading position but don't have any authority. So there was also one insight. Okay, now it's slowing down. So let's see. Who else wants to answer? So we are still missing some participants. Okay, some more. I mean, maybe not everybody wants to answer, so yeah, so maybe we stop it, and I can also, yes, and we can see if this is somehow, fits to what came out of the research. So yeah, I would almost, we have centralized design team, even with external consultancy. In the research, here it was more like that. Most people were like really in a centralized design team. Then place 2, the second place was like, there are service designers are usually embedded within product and service design teams. Then we had a few less that are somewhere like, across somewhere in departments. And then we just had in the research that I did, like the external consultancy were very just like a minor part of it. So, but I think this always depends on who's answering the survey. But it's interesting to see at least the centralized design team, I would say, is like the most dominant setup, how service design is set up in organizations at the moment. And I think this year, I mean, that's just how it is. I think I think this maybe changed. I think the external consultancies were maybe a bit more, but now it's getting a bit less. That's at least what I get back from the market. Okay, then let's go to the next insight. So I also asked them, what are the challenges that you're facing? And I like kind of what came out of what we can read from these numbers is like that. I would say the whole internal power relations thing is like, that's like a big challenge for everybody. I mean, but not only in service design. I think that's an ongoing challenge for everybody within companies. I think selling service design internally is also, I mean, I'm sure you know this. I'm sure you can relate to this. So that's a big thing. Gaining priorities for projects is also very big. Remote team setup, I think that's something lots of people are facing. Aligning on goals, communication, leading teams. So I think that's like kind of the landscape of challenges within service design. And I think the next slide is the answer to like, what are the challenges? And here you can see, so what did people kind of say, like, what are the competencies that you actually need? And I kind of grouped, I mean, there were like lots of different competencies that I gave them, to select from. So you have obviously the service design excellence, like really the expertise, the competence in service design itself. Then we have this part about, I called it visionary thinking. So this is really about strategic and visionary thinking, business thinking, aligning strategy, being part of strategy. I think that's a big, like a competency, like lots of service designers are looking into. Then also to be able to communicate with executives. I think that's a big part that, a lot of people want to, get better in. Like that's a big competency, especially being if we have to always, or being a service designer within an organization, you usually need to apply for sponsorship, for funding for your project. So that's why this is important to align service design projects as a important part of strategy, because otherwise, I mean, there's no strategy. I mean, if it's not important for the strategy, usually, there's no money, and if there's no money, we can't do nice research and nice service design. Then obviously, I think the last 2 years, everything about tech and AI is a big topic that I think everybody is trying to, get into and get better, get familiar with it. I think one incident was like I was giving a workshop at the service design conference in Helsinki about developing your own little service design AI assistant, and I think that was one of the workshops that was sold out as the first. So I think that's a topic that everybody's really interested in. Then we have the whole yellow field here. This is all about change management skills. Being able to manage uncertainty, because usually, a lot of times we don't know the result of the service design project. Otherwise, we wouldn't do user research. So we can't already answer at the beginning, like what will be the answer or how will the solution look like. And then everything with purple somehow, I call it like, is like in the field of leadership presence, like, topics like emotional intelligence, knowing a bit more about organization dynamics, or also like managing remote teams, and also being able to establish more trust within your team, within the area where you work in. So this is the competency field. Do you have any questions so far? Anything you want to know more about the data, about this? Because I have one more slide, but it's a lot of information, so I give you the chance to to stop me. Otherwise, I'll just continue. Okay, so the last result that I want to share from the research was like, I mean, obviously, I was asking for like, what are the challenges, what kind of competencies do you think are important? And then the last, I would say, quite logic, question was like, so what are you focusing on? Like, what is your development area that you're currently focusing on as a leader? Also for us as an academy, quite interesting to figure out, where, like, what kind of training, what kind of skills do service designers really want to keep growing, keep getting better in. And there, again, the strategic thinking and planning, I think that's a really important topic. Not only for service design, I think everybody wants to be important within an organization and, to have more power, I would say, more influence. Usually we like to be part of the table, like be part of the group that steers the company, or at least that, defines the strategy. Then there's a lot about change management. And again, people are getting into AI skills. Then we have the purple, kind of purple field. So this is about team leadership. So that's an area that service design leaders are interested in or trying to educate themselves. Communication skills, emotional intelligence. I mean, I was also asking, are they using, how do they build up their skills? And I think the answers were more like, it's either it's on-demand training, it's, programs like in the academy, like, small little programs, but also some are kind of into really having their own coaches, but this was like not the majority. So I think that's also obviously a budget issue. Not everybody can go to his, to his boss, to his CEO, or if you're self-employed and, have his personal coach. So lots of people are looking for education online, and also trying to make, little courses here and there. Then also like, the yellow parts were more like about, I think conflict is always and more, I would say, uncomfortable topic, but also a very important topic for, especially if you have a leadership position, because usually that's like your job to fight for budget, to make sure people can work together like in a really good way. And that's why I think that's quite obvious that these topics are also important. What I found quite surprising is that self-leading is so small, but maybe, I don't know, maybe you have an answer why self-leadership is so small in the like whole personal development. Maybe people are already so good in self-leadership, or maybe it's just maybe another answer would be, there's so much pressure from like external pressure that's kind of the last thing that you're thinking about. So it's more about, okay, I have to get better in talking business and talking strategy and knowing how to apply AI. But for me, I would say self-leadership is like the basis of everything else, because, to lead yourself is, I would say, that's how you can start. And then everything else can follow, because it's like kind of it's the basis of everything else. All right, so this was like a 10-minute dive into the insights from the research. And now I want to hop to the topic of leading change in service design. So this is that's from the service design masterclass. So there were some answers of participants, like why they think change is relevant in service design. And I found all these answers really interesting. I marked 3 of them with a star, which were like, I think was a really, like, for me, just also very surprising. Because one participant said, like, I think change is the most important success metric for a service design project. If there is no change, then the project isn't successful. And I thought that's a really cool, that's just a really cool statement. Like, why do you think change is so relevant in service design? And then another participant said, like, change is like, looks to be the essence of service design, changing experiences for better customers, organizations. So we can see, like, change is like everywhere. So it's a huge and very important topic. You can, like, from the research there, it was obvious that people are looking into getting more change management skills. I think when I got into service design, the first I used to have my own service design consultancy, and when I discovered service design after I did a long sabbatical and kind of try to, look at everything from a new, like with a fresh mind. And then someone introduced me to service design. I think my first initial response was like, oh my God, how do you do this? I mean, because all of a sudden you have people that that are part of the change. Because if you come from, a classic, my background is engineering, architecture, and there, like, the material is concrete, it's wood, that's easy. I mean, you get, familiar, like what you can do with the material, and then, you design something in there, and then you shape it. But service design, the people are your kind of material. And that's why I think immediately was like, oh my God, this is like change. And so from the moment I discovered service design, I think in parallel, I kind of felt that, the whole change aspect, the psychology behind is like so important. And these comments from the participants, I think, kind of speak, or kind of go into the same direction. So that means like, I called it like we are like partners in crime. So service design and change, or service design and change management could be partners in crime. But I think that's maybe that's a nice thing to say, but then there comes like the but, because I mean, if you have been a little bit involved in change management, you know that there's this number of 70% of change initiatives actually fail. And that's, I would say, then that is the reason why I understand that when I did my first research about service design and implementation, which for me is like service design and change, I had agencies, consultancies that said like, no, we never talk about change. We just want to, we sell our beautiful concepts. We have journey maps, we have, personas and all these things. We never talk about change. No, that's the dirty word, more or less. And maybe that's maybe this is the reason, because, you don't want to, I mean, if you imagine you want to, sell a service and project, and you come and meet the CEO and they say like, yeah, we're gonna, develop a nice concept, but this will be very hard, and this will be painful. And half of the people won't like it. So, obviously that's not a good sales pitch. So there, it could be a better sales pitch. And maybe that's the reason why this was like not something, that we want to bring together. But I think that's more or less the reality. And I think what's important to understand, or what was for me important to learn on this learning journey about change management and transformation, is that people usually don't resist that change. I mean, everybody, has to change. I mean, we all had to apply AI, so we have to be open to change, but usually we risk to being changed because we are, humans, and humans usually like to have lots of autonomy. If like from Maslow, the hierarchy of needs, autonomy and safety are like, that's the baseline. And that's why I brought this change curve, and I also wanted to give it to you as a thought starter, or like as something to think about, because I quite like the change curve, because it's very simple. It's linear. That's the critique. So lots of people say, oh, nobody needs a change curve. This is all like not how reality looks like. Yes, sure, it's not. But I think it kind of really shows the psychology, like it's about humans, it's about emotions. And usually if somebody else tells you, you're going to change, you need to change, from, I don't know, tomorrow on, you will get the small office without a window. You will have to leave your great office that you had with a nice view over the Central Park, and now you get the back in like little office. I'm sure everybody of you would go like, oh no, I don't really like this. And that's what happens in every kind of change that other people kind of bring to us. So, they just, throw the change towards us. And that's how this curve kind of got developed. So that's actually based on grief. So that's from Kübler-Ross. I'm sure you maybe have heard about her. She was researching a lot about how people grieve. And usually this is like an emotional, that's, how the emotions are in, I would say, standard human beings. It's actually the same for learning. It's also a similar curve. But in terms of change, it's like, somebody, you know that, there will be a change. And usually the first thing is like, you have two questions. Will it affect me? What's in for me, or will it affect me in the better, in the good or in the bad? So you will experience some, maybe you get angry, maybe you're shocked, then maybe you deny the whole thing. You try to not think about it. And then usually there comes like this, oh yeah, I have to accept it. And then acceptance usually goes on. You can rationally accept it, or also emotionally, but you also have to accept it on an emotional level before you can actually then, start working on it. And so this is like, has a lot to do with leaving the comfort zone. And I think that's the reason why usually people don't like, to let other people tell them that they have to change. And this is what happens in service design. So you come with you develop solutions, and, not everybody was maybe part of, developing these solutions. So usually that's what could happen with people that are within your company that go kind of where you show them something like, oh, like from, I don't know, in 3 months, this will be our new process. So we work on improving, changing processes, and usually people quite like maybe the process how it is, or maybe front staff quite like the way how they used to kind of talk to customers or do things with customers. But this is like something what happens kind of with everybody. You have these waves. You have you go from anger, denial to kind of, that's what's called the valley of tears. So usually that's something where you are quite frustrated. But then after you left that, after you accepted, oh, okay, maybe you saw a nice prototype from the service design team, and you go like, oh, it's actually not so bad. I quite like this solution. Maybe that's could be the thing where you then go from, okay, let's be part of this. And then you go into really working with it. And so I think, so why did I choose to show this to you first? It's like, to maybe show you, okay, this is like, it's really about the psychology, the human behind. It's about these different emotions, and it's also about a certain rhythm. So usually that's why I like this kind of linear curve, is like, first you have to make sure people are on board, so they are part of this. We have to first be very slow, give people the chance to kind of get to know, how will the change look like if there's a new service process? So how will it look like? What will be different for me? What new skills, for example, do I need? And then, once people are familiar with it, they kind of accept it, they understood that's the new process. Okay, that's what I will have to do. They will come through like a rational acceptance after they maybe saw some prototypes or a part of prototyping. And then, they can accept it. And then once you have the acceptance, you can speed up. But usually lots of change processes, it's the other way around. We kind of go like, oh my God, we should have already done everything. And then people are way too fast. But if you haven't gone like through this first part of, to give people the chance to accept it and to feel like, to buy in, to get the buy-in, that's actually where like this buy-in is so important. Then, people will maybe be, or, stakeholders or team members will say like, okay, I will support this. Otherwise you will have, I'm sure all of you have experienced resistance in certain areas of the process. And that's usually resistance is something healthy. Conflicts are also usually something healthy for an organization, because you have to really discuss things. You have to communicate about it before you can actually then, really roll out things, before you can also, help people to establish the new, and to also be more efficient. So whenever there's a change, it means like the speed will drop, so you can't say we change everything, but we keep the same speed and everybody will be happy. So I think, I'm sure you all know this, or have experienced that. And that's maybe the end of just giving you lots of information. I wanted to ask you these two questions. So what do you think, if you think about this kind of change rhythm and also this emotional what happens on our, like within every, I would say, single human being, if it's opposed to, oh, this is a new service and project, that's our new service process. So how could you support stakeholders or peers if you develop a new service concept to face this change that comes with it, and also maybe your experience. So what have you experienced that worked already? What worked well to help people to say yes or to agree to the new, that there's a new, a great new process that you have developed. So I would say these are two questions that I would be really interested in. So let's see who would like to share his experience, maybe something that resonated with you regarding this. That's my timer to make sure I stop talking.
Thank you, Tina, for monitoring yourself, self-monitoring there. So folks, you can either comment in the chat if you're shy, raise your hand and speak directly or answer directly to Tina if you like, whichever is comfortable for you. I mean, Tina, one question that has always popped in my mind regarding this very topic is okay, first of all, I should ask you, because you're in education, is this taught to designers in design schools?
No.
Okay, so that's the first question. No. So number two is
not yet.
how do designers learn this? Do they learn it through postgraduate study, or do they learn it on the job, or both? That's the second question, I guess. And there's a third. Should service, it seems to me that it's such a huge area. Should service designers even be learning this, or should there be an expert partnership with service designers, so service designers can focus on all the other things that we're saving the world doing, versus actually taking on, which seems like a very complex subject. So there's a whole bunch of questions, and there's hands up. Excellent.
Maybe
Mari,
I could just say,
your hand up first.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Did you want to say something, Tina, first before?
No, go ahead. I've talked enough.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so thank you. This is really interesting. And so just as a brief background, I'm an organizational psychologist. I have 15 years of experience in that, and almost no experience in service design yet, just graduated. So I'm now starting to combine these things. And that's why I find this talk super interesting. I think to answer the first question that's on the screen there, one thing that I found very useful is kind of really listening to what they're saying. What is it that they're talking about? If they're saying, yeah, I understand why this needs to happen, but, so what comes after the but? What is it that they're actually, do they not believe that it's useful? Are they scared? Like, what is it that they're actually struggling with? Because then that's usually the key to finding out how to help different stakeholders. And like I wrote in the chat as well, people are so different in where they are and what's influencing their work that you can't assume based on where you are on the curve that somebody else is on the same spot or in the same situation at all. So that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's great. So you are the person to go to if you come with this background. I think that's an answer to Brian.
It sure is. Yeah. But Mari's career path is a very unusual career path, from becoming an expert in organization change, psychology, psychiatry, developing emotional intelligence, communication skills, et cetera, and now adding service design on top. I would say Mari is a maverick, but maybe it's a new trend. Maybe it's a trend. Maybe it is one of these future directions that our profession is attracting skill sets from other areas of expertise, and people are finding ways to mix and match them and become, unique members of service design teams of the future. So that's a really fascinating, Mari. I love it. Christina.
Yeah, thanks. Really nice topic again. I think from my experience, to keep the people informed is super important. And we need to do it with different kind of materials because some people need like something written down, some people need something more in a presentation, and they need to listen to it a few times more than just once before the actual change is happening. And I guess often, yeah, we share like the change or our ideas when change is about to happen, and this is quite suddenly for a few people. So yeah, keep them informed is important, I guess.
Yes, I think that's one of the first kind of mistakes that a lot of change initiatives kind of do. They, they want to, yeah, let's finish it first. It's like, designers not showing prototypes. Oh, no, let's just show it once it's ready. And I think that's maybe a similar, oh, no, we wait. And I think maybe one rule of thumb in change, the longer you wait, the scarier it gets. It's kind of like it grows. And at the beginning it's small and you can also say, look, we do this, we don't know where it's going, we don't know exactly what we need, but we have there was a decision because of that, that we will have to change that, or that we need this, let's say this new service because it's very important for being future proof and so on. So this kind of is directly linked to, I would say, selling service design.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people need also time to discuss or think about it and then come back to us and yeah, to discuss things that they are getting involved, even if they are not 100% in that change process. But yeah.
Gabrielle, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, good evening, Brian. Good evening, Tina. Thank you very much for your talk. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. As I said, thank you for your talk, Tina. I got some questions rather than providing some answers to yours. I was interested in because maybe I lost the first part of the meeting. So what was your methodology in following up this research? And then I was interested to understand from your side, what do you consider in that how in your first question that shared on the screen? So how can we support stakeholders or peers in organizations when they're facing change? So what does it mean that how? What does it entails and embeds? Yeah. By the way, I'm a researcher in leadership as well, so I was kind of interested in that. That's why. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I start with the last one. I mean, the how is like it's also meant with. I mean, we have in services are lots of nice methods, and we have co-creation. So it's also about the how is to use service design tools and skills that are already there, and also then use them, apply them. But also, I think there was something that Brian brought up. I mean, a service designer all of a sudden can't be everything. I mean, we can't, service designer can't be the top strategist, the top salesperson, the top service designer, the UI designer, the researcher, and so on. So I mean, it's like, it's many different professions in one. And I think it's the same. Like, not every service designer can be a change manager, doesn't even want to be. So I think that's the nice thing. We can, or in service design, I mean, that's also why I was attracted to this field. It's quite complex. We can go into many directions. I think regarding change, I think it could be a nice idea to also, if you work, for example, in a bigger corporation, you could integrate the internal change team. Usually every company has some change teams or change consultants to maybe be part of a service design project and already think about the consequences, about a possible resistance, how to bring people along, maybe how to use this to work also on, certain topics that are important for HR, upskilling people, innovation mindset. So I think there are lots of things that service designers can bring to the table that are important for every organization. Yeah. So that's what I meant with how. So what can we do? And regarding the first question, what exactly did you mean with methodology? I mean, it was a survey. It was an online survey that I did for, you know, the first part, the leadership survey, the answers.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Sure. Thank you very much. So, and
I mean, it was the other way around. First, I mean, I've done the last years lots of trainings with service designers, with other people in organizations, lots of coaching and, you know, consulting companies. So I collected all these challenges on the way, and out of maybe more qualitative, you know, listening to people, collecting what are they struggling with, and then I developed like just an online survey, like a quantitative survey. So, but it came out of really qualitative research.
And may I ask how many people answered back to the survey, and who did you target? If design leaders or
it's a bit less than 100. So I was hoping for even more, to have more exciting data. So that's why the first part is close. I have another, I mean, so, but I'm still, you know, enriching it still. So it's still open. I think the next newsletter we send it out again, because it's also the service and network it was sent out through the newsletter. So I hope we have more people answering, because there's already the next survey in the wanting to get out next year with another topic. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Saima, you've got a question for Tina.
Yeah, I thank you, Tina, for your wonderful talk and for your research as well. Amazing work. So I just wanted to share my experience here, because you've asked how we can support stakeholders or peers in organizations. My thesis topic was co-creating psychological safety in complex work environments. So there I worked with a team which was multidisciplinary, and they had to deal with multiple teams. And I used service design methods, and I co-created the employee journeys and also the stakeholder maps and stakeholders' journeys. And we were able to point out many pain points and what they were feeling emotionally and even practically. So I think that's how we can also support change in leadership, because change is obviously slow. And using these service design methods, we can make it more smooth. And yeah, it worked well. We came up with a blueprint where everybody was listened to, or maybe they had a say or some. Obviously, it was not 100% of what it should be, but it was a start. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, that sounds nice. Can you share? Is it like a thesis we can also read?
Sure. Yeah. I can share the link here and then.
Oh, thank you. That would be nice. Very interesting.
Thank you, Saima, and thank you for that comment, for sharing. Taina, you've got a question for Tina, or a comment or an observation.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So Tina, thank you for your interesting presentation. And I'm trying to answer to your questions. So I've been working within the finance industry over 40 years, and so the majority of that time been involved in developing different type of financial services within wealth management. And throughout the last 10 years, I've been working with service design and trying to implement actually then service design methodology. And this is, my example comes from, I am not a service designer myself. I have been a bank manager, so been in a leadership position all my career. And what I noticed from the service design approach, actually, then what really then made the difference compared to the traditional project way of working has always been the way actually then we involve people. So when we start actually then involving stakeholders, involving people in a totally different way, so they actually then they start being committed, and their behavior also changes. And when they commit, they start own the things. And that's already the majority of actually the implementation, because when people own the topics, they are very, very easily then implementing them also, and they feel really committed to them. So that was what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Dana. Yes, I think totally agree, and I think some of our fellow attendees here, Ineke van Gelder, also mentions that, you know, involving stakeholders and peers and partners in the process from the beginning of a project, using the tools and methods of collaboration and co-creation that we've become expert in, is certainly makes a huge difference. I also think there, you know, Tina, I think you should touch on this one, because it struck me, the research that you and Birgit did a number of years back. And one of the things that you came out with that has stuck with me all this time is that implementation is a mindset that needs to be in place right from the beginning. If you're not if you're not going through the diamond with an implementation mindset, you're not really thinking about engaging all those who would be involved in the implementation of it and necessary for you to succeed in implementation. So, you know, Tina, that was an early part of that implementation model. Is there anything about that implementation mindset that you'd like to expand on? What does it mean? What does it take?
That's interesting to call it an implementation mindset.
I thought they were your words.
No,
Maybe they're
no.
my words. Maybe I made it up.
Yeah, you created that. That's cool. I think what was so fascinating when I discovered, because I discovered first service design, and then, you know, I kind of started this huge learning journey about change management and systemic change consulting, did different degrees, or not degrees, like, some education on these topics. And I was so fascinated that in service design and also in change management, like, to let people participate, you know, they're so, you know, that's the number one thing. And was so fascinating that, oh, you know, somebody who invented service design was so smart to put this whole co-creation, and in service design, you know, the prototypes because usually people want to understand the deeper meaning behind, like, why should I change? And if they understand that, actually, because they saw a prototype, they will, you know, it's much easier to commit to something, to say, like, oh, yes, I commit. I like this. I agree. We need that. And that's what, you know, we can do if we do co-creation workshops. We can really, you know, put people kind of on fire. I mean, you know, like, kind of getting enthusiastic and being really part of solving problems, because lots of people like to solve problems. I think it's a very, you know, human reaction to, you know, like this. And that was, I remember one of the first interviews I did about services and implementation was somebody from a big energy provider, and she actually said, like, oh my God, we had these first service design workshops where we educated people in service design, and they had almost tears in their eyes, because they were like, oh my God, I can actually do something now. We come together from all parts of the organization, and we can actually tackle the things that we think that should change. So, you know, to get active. And I think, you know, that's also such a nice part of, you know, bringing the service design tools to actually go from the situation now to the preferred future. And that's actually the same in change. So you have a situation now, you want to change to a preferred situation in the future. So we have, you know, service design and change, they have the same goal. It's just a little bit different wording, different things that, you know, that get done. And maybe the implementation mindset could be something implementation sounds so technical, but I would say it's really, you know, letting people be part of it, and informing them, and not, you know, making all the decisions, and, you know, the solution is ready, and then, you know, they just have to do it. So I think everybody wants to be, you know, if we have a certain, if we can also make sure that our ideas count, that, you know, we can share and be part of it. So maybe that could be more like this, let people be part of it mindset. I don't know how you want to call it, co-creative mindset. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think you're totally right. To me, when I hear you speaking, it's almost like the role of the service designer is, through our tools and methods, create the conditions that allow change to successfully happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be what we do well, without actually becoming experts, like Mary. We can use what we know to actually create that change and facilitate that change.
Absolutely.
We've got 2 minutes left. Any last minute thoughts from folks? I have one real quick question, Tina. Back to the amazing amount of information from your research. I had a question about the competencies. Were they competencies that respondents said that they have or that they believe we should have?
No, that they believe that service designers should have.
Should have. Okay.
Like what is important?
So therefore, that's why I was a little bit confused, because I wrote it down here. The lowest of all of them, 29%, said aligning strategic vision with team goals. Yet when it came to the next one, where it was about how should we grow, the highest one, 87%, said strategic thinking and planning. Doesn't that seem off kilter?
That's a good comment. I'll take it with me and look at the data again.
Okay. I would be curious. If you do that, I'd love to hear back from you, or maybe we can continue the conversation.
I mean, this is always the bad thing about quantitative research. You can't ask why. So why did you answer this? This is like not logic, or I would expected something else. And I think that's why it's so nice to mix both. So you have like really the interviews where you can say like, oh, but why do you think this is important? I mean, I know it from research that sometimes people say at the beginning something is very important, and then they think it through, and at the end they say like, oh, this is actually not important at all. This kind of train of thoughts that happens within interviews or also maybe surveys, maybe, people have very answers that are contradictory to what they maybe initially answered. So maybe lots of people kind of went through, oh, maybe this is not so important. Maybe something else is important.
Right. Maybe Gabrielle knows the answer to that, since he's doing research too.
Yes.
Anyway, it's 11 o'clock. And thank you all so much for joining us today. And Tina, thank you. It's been brilliant to have you with us on the final Global Cafe of the year. I hope you all can join us next year. Sonia and I and Birgit will be putting together a program, and hope to welcome you all back for some thought leadership and good conversation. So thank you all for being so engaging today and for bringing up your thoughts and questions. Really appreciate it a lot. Tina, any last words?
No, thanks. I wish everybody a nice rest of the year. And yes, hope we can see each other again next year in whatever activities from the Academy, not only Academy, but also from the community. So thanks for inviting me. It was very nice to be here.
Excellent. All right, folks. All the best. Cheers.